Hello, hello, our little friends, our little rats. We are
Or
back,
brats.
or brats. We are back for another episode of Chatty Rats. We are rebranded. We are brand new. I am your co-host, Natalia Graciela Vargas-Soria, and I'm joined by...
Rasheen. I feel like after this rebrand, I'm going to go by Rasheen. I did that on the cover too, because our last cover said Natalia and Sheen. This cover says Natalia and Rasheen.
Oh my God, yes.
I'll tell you guys the right way you pronounce it, actually. So this is the way you would say it, like in the mother tongue. Rasheen. Rasheen. It's like raw and then sheen. Yeah. But the white way is just like Rasheen. Just flows better, you know? How are you, Natalia?
Oh my God, I'm so good. Since we rebranded, we did like a little photo shoot in LA. Sheen made a really cool intro video, but it got me thinking about our original theme music that we outsource in Fiverr.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you have it, but we basically hired a man, which it's on us. It's on us. We hired a man to do it. And Sheen, if you have it, can you please show?
I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. Let me see. Give me a second. I'm gonna have to.
While you look for it. The funny thing is that we messaged this guy being like, we're like a cute little girly podcast. Think pink flowers, everything nice, like just girly pop. And we basically asked him, like, we wanted like a song that's like poppy and fun. Like, we could not have said the word girly cutie baby more. And this is essentially what he came up with.
Oh, yeah. Here's the intro.
The rats don't run this city. We do.
Okay. That gives you guys an idea. We've gone through
drama.
Okay, honestly, there's been so much drama with like things we've tried to do. Because if you guys didn't know, we tried to hire a photographer to shoot our cover and like content for us. And there was like so much. It just wasn't meant to be. I ended up shooting it myself for us.
Yeah.
But we had one photographer give us attitude. So we're like, you know what? We're not going to work with him because he's giving us attitude, like to like shoot with. Yeah, bad vibe. We find another one and we're like, he seems really nice. His rate was great. And then he ends up messaging us the morning of the shoot being like, leaving San Diego right now.
And we're like, oh no, honey.
And the shoot was like in an hour and a half or 2 hours. And we're just like, this dude isn't going to make it. So he never made it.
Yeah. Like, unless he has a teleportation device, he ain't going to make it. So we try to outsource, but when we try, it doesn't work. And then poor Sheen ends up having to take the reins.
I just feel, it's just hopefully next time, Natalia, just wasn't meant to be this time. But
for real.
I think it looks good. Obviously, would have loved it professionally done, but I'm happy with our little rebranding.
Okay. I do have some photographers here that we could work with when you come visit eventually. So we got options. But how you been, Sheen? We know you went on a date, so I want to hear all about it.
You know, I went on a date. Okay, so actually, I think this would be a really good little segment to talk about because I feel like the reason I went on a date, because I'm not usually very motivated to go on dates, but this man made me motivated to go on this date. As in, like, I was like, okay, I see you and I will come through. So let's talk about what he did right. So he initiated conversation, obviously, on the app, on the great app of Hinge, the one we love, the one and only. He initiated convo and was really good at carrying the conversation and asking questions. So it was like a very engaging conversation on the app. And then this part reminded me of your story with Daniel because he had responded this like long response and asked me questions. And I was like, okay, I'll just like respond later. So for like a day and a half I hadn't responded, and he followed up again being like, hey, like I would love to see you. Can you give me your number and I'll plan something? And just reminded me because you told me like you didn't respond to Daniel and then he like
Yeah.
messaged again, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I love that because personally it's like, oh, you thought of me again and you're like being really intentional about like wanting to make this happen. It means like I'm more than just like a swipe. And I know that sounds silly and the bar is in
No, but it's
hell,
true.
but it's those little interactions like make someone stand out, right?
100%. Yeah.
Another added layer was the fact that we matched on, I think Tuesday. We're talking Tuesday, Wednesday. On Wednesday, he's like, can you hang out Thursday? Because I know it's very soon, but I'm leaving to Hawaii on Saturday. I don't respond. And then he follows up on Friday morning being like, hey, I really want to plan something. Can you give me your number? So he's planning to see me, like trying to get it in before his trip.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really like impressive that like he was that, what's the word? Intentional, I guess, about it.
Say he's into it.
He seemed into it. And honestly, like, I love that. I love the initiative. I love the feeling of being pursued. That's what I want. That's what I want. So I was like, of course I'm going to go. And on Friday, I was like, look, my window is small. It's like from 7 to 8:30 max. Giving him a small window. And I'm like, I have to see my parents after. He's like, okay, where do your parents live? Let's like, I'll find something right by where they are, basically. So he works with my window, picks a bar where by my parents live, and is okay with like this small window the day before his trip. So I was like, you're good at my books. You're good at my books. Yeah. So that's how he got me motivated to go on the date.
And
not that you asked.
How did it go? No,
yeah. How did it go? I think it went well. Honestly, it was a pretty short date. As I mentioned, I like had somewhere to go. And initially just like very small talky. And I think towards the end, I was like, okay, I can see a bit more of his personality coming out. I feel like, honestly, no complaints about this guy. I didn't notice that he wasn't asking questions, which means he was doing a decent job of asking questions.
Oh, that's
true.
Yes.
You notice when someone doesn't do it, but if they're doing it, it kind of flows.
Yes.
I think so far I have no complaints, and I can't say 100% there was like this, because sometimes you go on a date and it's like fire, connection, popping off. I can't say there was that yet, but it also just felt very short, and like at the end we were kind of like building more of like a flow. So I think it's one of those situations where it's like I'm gonna need a couple more times to see it through.
No, I think that's good. Sometimes like it can be a slow burn, but like you said, the date is short. So it takes sometimes people a minute for like their personality to come out.
Exactly.
And if he was like asking questions and it was flowing, if the date was any longer, you might have gotten there. So I think it's good to be like, okay, like when he comes back, we can continue to see like kind of where this goes. But that is way better than a bad date, which has been the case in the past.
Exactly. Because there's nothing that makes you feel lonelier and just pessimistic about the dating world than having a bad date.
Oh,
like
I know.
Bad date feels like it just like sets you back like 10 steps.
Yeah, like, oh my God, will I ever go on a good date? Especially when like people don't meet like the basic requirements. It's like, ask me questions, be polite, like plan something, take some lead. But I was gonna ask you, what is that just flew into my house? Oh, I hope
story
hope
of my
it.
Life.
Ew, it looks like a beetle. Anyways, moving on, I'll just ignore it. Hope he hunts it. Okay, it looks scary as hell. I'll ignore it.
Yeah, beetle
looks like a black wasp from here, or maybe it's okay, I'm gonna move on. Do you think so do you think persistence works, or do you have to have some sort of like attraction or like interest, or be like, oh my God, he's really hot? Like, because at what point would persistence kind of give you an ick instead?
I think it really has to be the right approach and the right amount. So for example, if the persistence where it's like, I never responded to your message and you've messaged me 4 times, that persistent doesn't really work. But if we've had this flow of conversation, kind of like how this happened, and then let's say I hadn't responded. Remember, I had once that one guy where I hadn't responded and he was like, did you know there's an unmatched feature? Do you
Oh,
remember me
yes,
showing you
so
that?
bitter.
So basically the guy was like, you not responding, like you should have just unmatched me. Like it was very bitter. But I think the reason this one worked was because conversation flowed. Then he was pivoted more to like, let's see each other, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey, why haven't you responded? Like that type of persistence would have been icky. And
Yeah.
also it was just his persistence after that, once we started texting to plan, was more like, I will accommodate you. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I feel like that's why it wasn't icky. But I feel like if you're not really getting any interest vibe from the girl and you're just persisting and persisting, then that's icky, right? Because it's just like,
you
why
have
are you
to
being
have
so
some sort of
desperate?
like,
You have to have some
like
sort of interest.
yeah, 100%. Okay, I like that. Just so that you know, for one male listener, you know, if you're curious
Yeah.
when it's working and when it isn't.
Most women find persistent, if they're interested, really attractive, right? We want to feel pursued. And I think that
Yeah.
will put you 100 legs in front of any other man, is if you're like actively pursuing someone who like there's like a two-way street with.
Yeah, if anything, like see it as a job, you know, like follow up once, and if you get a response, you know, then like you know it's
Exactly.
good. Like a recruiter, you know, just a
Exactly.
recruiter doesn't message me back. What the fuck? You don't want this fucking job? Like
Yes, exactly.
they say, "Oh my god, hey,
Exactly.
I have this amazing opportunity. Are you sure you want to pass it up?"
Exactly. Can I tell you
Yeah,
one thing that made me feel really good walking into the date?
yeah.
So I was walking and this like older man, let's say like in his like 50s or 60s, not creepy, just because I was in a beach town, I was at Hermosa Beach. Just like a local guy. As I passed by, he's like, wow, you are gorgeous. And like
Oh,
when I tell you, I felt so good. I feel like there's something when a compliment comes from like an older man like that, and it wasn't creepy. It was just like very like taken aback and like just like it was a compliment. He was done with it. He walked by,
yeah.
and I was like, that set me in for my date. I felt so good walking
I love
in.
that. Because
Yeah,
it's nice to just be
felt like a
complimented as like, oh
princess.
my god, you're so pretty. Like no intention,
Yes,
just like, oh my
yes,
god, you're
yes,
gorgeous. I love that. Oh yes.
yeah,
Okay, we're summer's off to a good dating start. So I like that positive start.
yeah. Like no complaints. We're happy. But back to what we were saying, because you were like, it's going to be a good summer. And I was like, thinking it's going to be a brat girl summer.
Oh
Sorry, that's so
yes.
cheesy. But the reason I bring that up is because I love the album, Charlie XCX's album.
Hmm.
And I realized like she's 31. So I feel like a lot of the things she's going through are like similar to what we've been going through in people our age group. And I think everyone knows at this point ugh, there is a song with her that she came out with, and then now it got remixed with Lord. It's a good song to kind of start thinking about female friendships, what goes on internally inside of us, like in those dynamics, or just like women who are like,
You had me hear the song before
yeah, I
we
was gonna
started
say I
recording.
forced you to listen to the song. But I really relate to the lyrics. Like I feel like sometimes there's things that we take personally in friendships that are just like what the other person is internally going through and is like being projected as apathy or indifference or like do they even like me? Like there's a line where Lord says you would invite me out and I would cancel all the time like last minute, and it was because I didn't want to be seen with you and have my pictures taken because I was like battling these body image issues.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's like so relatable. And I mean, me and you, when we were in LA, we had a really long conversation about friendship breakups and like how much
Yeah.
friendship breakups hurt. And just, I think the female friendship dynamic is so interesting and a topic I'll never get tired of talking about. So,
No, I think that I mean I talked about like one specific friendship breakup. I just had been thinking about like, you know, recently And it's crazy that after all this time, like I still think about it. Um,
Yes.
and even there was another one, a different one from a different time, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like randomly thinking about it yesterday. Meanwhile, like all the boys that I've ended things with, bye bye. Like I already forgot about them. Like I'm
Same.
in love. Bye. But yeah, it's just crazy how like these things like resonate with us because these things are very defining to us. And I feel like a lot of women like still think about their friendship breakups till this day. And I feel like that says a lot about like how strong our lives are defined by female friendship and female dynamics as well.
Yeah.
Whereas like I don't know if guys think about it in the same way.
I don't think so. I think they just like kind of move on. But I also think, actually, no, I don't want to say that. I was going to be like, guys don't have as much emotional depth as we do, but I think they do in some sense. But I had a theory. I don't know if you feel this way about your friendship breakups, but whenever I think about the best
Mhm.
friend that got away type of situation, and I think about the idea of reaching out to them, I just simply can't because I could never deal with the possibility of rejection. So I was like
Yeah.
theorizing why that is. And I like came up with this theory that if they were to reject me, it would feel like the essence of me and me as a person is being rejected. Whereas when it
Yeah.
comes to a romantic relationship, I think we accept, oh, maybe I'm just not a match for this person. Like, that's fine. But I think when it comes to a friendship dynamic, it's almost like it makes one feel like inadequate or not feeling like who they are is accepted by this person who used to like love them and be close to them. It's almost like this childhood wound of not getting picked in dodgeball, right? Like I think of it
Yeah.
in that way where that pain is harder to deal with than like a breakup in a romantic dynamic. Cause that's how I like started unraveling it. I was like, I would love to reach out to this person, but I actually could not deal with the rejection. I don't think I could. I would rather be ignorant and just live in like, damn, sucks we are not no longer friends
Mhm.
than to like be told I'm actually not interested in being friends with you.
Yeah. You know what it is too? It is like psychologically it hurts more is that, so for example, like if you reach out back to a guy, being like, hey, do you want to get back together? Odds are it's kind of like, oh, I already have a girlfriend. Like, I'm already
Mm-hmm.
talking to somebody else. Like, no, thank you.
Yes.
And even if they don't say it, we kind of tell ourselves that story. We're like, oh, whatever. Like, maybe
Yes.
they're saying somebody else, whatever. Whereas, like, with friendship, there's always quote unquote room for more people. So
Yes,
it's like,
exactly.
oh, they don't like me.
Exactly.
So I think that like really, really hurts. So yeah, it's interesting because and friendship breakups happen for many reasons. Like something happened or we outgrew each other. That's probably like the most common thing. But some of these friendship breakups are like a mourning of like a past version of you, which I feel like that's when you outgrow someone. But when something happens that like no longer would have happened when you're older, it's like
Mm-hmm.
kind of sucks, right? Because kind of like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
like if I would have had that perspective, um,
Exactly.
because I remember this one friendship breakup, we broke it off because of some guy, and we were so young, because we were just stupid.
Yeah,
And I think about it now that I'm like, I literally, if that happened today, like that, I literally could not care less about that guy. Like, who cares?
exactly.
And I feel like she would probably agree as well. So it's like it's crazy because we don't have that hindsight sometimes when you're younger.
100 million
Um,
percent.
But I do think female friendship is like really, really intimate as well. Like women we're so touchy feely. Like we have sleepovers, like we look ugly together, we do face masks, like we talk for hours and hours. Like it's very intense. Whereas like
It
not that
is,
male
yeah.
friendship isn't intense, but we are very like touchy feely, which I think that touch creates an automatic sisterhood, which I do wish that men would be a little more like let's get in bed together and like watch the game like without being called like gay or something
Yeah,
because like that level of intimacy that women experience does create for very very strong bonds which
yeah,
men usually normally only experience when they're in a relationship whereas we get that with other women without having it be romantic. So I think that that's like the extra layer of why it hurts so much is that we are so intimate with each other.
It's true. We are. And like we're always sharing like every little detail of our lives with like our besties, you know? I don't think men are
Mhm.
usually like that. I think they give high level updates, but they're not like us. Like, I went on this date and then he asked me this and then he asked me that, you know? Like we're
Yeah,
so enmeshed in each other's lives. And it's beautiful because it's someone you get to experience life with.
yeah,
And I think that's a good way to transition to the topic of how then it becomes really hard when these female friendships start to change and we start going on different paths. Because I think the interesting thing of entering your late 20s and 30s is female friendships for the first time in our lives start to kind of change and
yeah.
take on this new shape.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like as it comes to women, I feel like when we shift from 30's and 20's, things start to get crazy, right? Like we can get married, get pregnant, like have kids. That's a pretty big transformation.
Yeah.
And we're transitioning a lot of us from like going single and like all kind of like doing the same things, like going out, girls brunch, to like our friends that are like checking their fertility, be like, I'm ovulating, I have to go
Yeah.
right now. Like, and it's crazy because we're all still like in different phases. So seeing that change is wild because not every friendship can go through that and still survive.
Hmm.
And we're seeing it now, right? Like we have some friends that are engaged, some that are already married, some that are pregnant, some that already have babies. And we're all now going through such different experiences that are very unique to the, I feel like to the woman experience, right? Like, oh my God, like a body is changing. You know, like
Hmm.
that's crazy. Or like I'm
Hmm.
carrying a life. It's insane.
Yeah, I think something I was thinking about is how like these different transitions probably make any woman in any of the positions, whether you're like pregnant, married, single, like I feel like we all have this like sense of loneliness because
Mhm.
we're no longer like experiencing life with these females, like female friendships that we had like on the same page. And
Yeah.
we're now having to like deal with these emotions in a way where it's like, yeah, maybe my best friend won't be able to relate to me, you know,
Yeah.
the same way that they used to. So I think it's an interesting like reckoning period of trying to be like, okay, like I got to deal with this alone. Like this is a experience I'm going through and maybe I don't have as many friends that relate exactly the same way. So it's an interesting like transition period of our lives, this era.
Yeah. And I mean, it is like heartbreaking in a way, right? I do wonder if a lot of these like disconnects are because of miscommunication, like us assuming that, oh, maybe like they're not interested in what I'm saying. Like maybe like they don't care about this. Or maybe like a lot of it is like us assuming that maybe we're not connected when like potentially we could be if we just had
Yeah.
more open ended conversations about what we each need, if that makes sense.
So what do you
So, for
think that
example,
would I
what
was
that would
literally
look
gonna
like.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is what I
sorry.
was
I don't know. Like, for example, like I think about like my friends that are pregnant or have babies, and like, I mean, you said this as well. Like, you were like on like baby talk too, and I am as well. So I try to relate to my friends that have kids by like kind of bringing myself into the conversation, right? So like right now, like some of my TikTok is like mom stuff. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a mother. I'm not a mother, but at least like I have some sort of idea so that when we talk about these things, not only can I contribute a little bit, like kind of know where they're coming from, but also coming from a place of like learning, like, oh, tell me more about that. What is it like? I think we need to be able to get out of like our own echo chambers as well. You yourself as a single person, be open to having those mommy talks, for example, and vice versa, right? Like I know it's easy to be immersed in like I'm just in motherhood as an example. It's hard not to be consumed by it too, you know. But you still showing interest in what your friend is going through, you know. If it's like a career thing, you know, asking her questions, and really it's just about like asking each other, like, hey, what's going on, and showing genuine interest in it
That's a
without
good
feeling so
point.
disconnected.
Yeah, because I think before you didn't have to like put the effort of like, let me like learn more about whatever you're going through because we were just going through the same thing. So we were always talking
Yeah,
about like, oh, let's talk about our college experience because we're both in college or like we're
yeah,
both starting our first careers. So now that this transition kind of like weeds us into different paths, it's like you do have to learn about your friend's path. Like if your friend is having a baby or they're getting married, like take learning and taking interest in what that means for them
Yeah,
takes a bit more like
exactly.
conscious effort. So you have to put that effort in. You have to put that effort
Yeah, you
in.
have to remember, like, okay, like we are having different experiences.
Exactly.
How do we feel like we both care about what we each are going through without getting so caught up in whatever's going on?
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, your friendship may not like survive it, right? So, yeah, and it's hard, right? Because some of it's like female hormones as well. Oh my God, the wasp got out. Uh, Female hormones as well. It plays into it. So it's a whole thing.
What do you mean about female hormones?
I don't know, like for example, like if your friend just had a baby, there's a huge hormone crash that happens. So
True.
like the quote unquote mommy brain, that's a very real thing. And you have to be
Yeah.
like, okay, remember your friend is going through this transitional period right now. So she's not gonna be 100% who she was. And we had to have like an understanding for that too.
I was going to talk about what I think is interesting. Me and you were excluded, of course, from this conversation. But I think is how a lot of women get in this like egocentric perspective where they're like, whatever I'm going through, you have to like align with me. And I think a big
Yes.
part of where that has blown up in the last like 5 years is like the wedding industry and like the wedding
Mm.
extravaganza when it comes to these glamorous like bachelorettes and bajillion wedding parties and destination weddings and all these things. And I feel like because you were saying like some friendships like can survive this, some can't. And I think when one side isn't considering like, oh, my path is different than my friends, how does this impact her? For example, with the bachelorette thing, I always think of people are throwing these like crazy elaborate bachelorettes like in Mykonos, Cabo, asking people to spend thousands of dollars in their PTO. And sometimes they don't look at like, how does this impact them differently, right? Like,
Yeah.
what would be equitable? Because my married friend is splitting rent, she's splitting bills, she has two incomes probably coming into her household, while my single friend is taking on everything by themselves. So, like,
Yeah.
how do I do this versus like the whole like, it's my wedding, you have to show up or you're not my friend. So, I think
Yeah.
that's also something to think about with these transition periods. Like, how can you bring self awareness into it?
Yeah.
What
100%.
what do you think drives the egocentricness of some people?
I really think it's much like your friend that gets a boyfriend and forgets about the girlfriends. I feel like
Mm,
we get so caught up in this loop of like, oh my God, like we did it type of thing. And
mhm,
we just kind of forget that like you once were this like single person, for
mm,
example. I think it's easy to get caught up in that world. And just kind of forget, oh my God, like there's other people with different finances. Like I've told you, like sometimes it's like all these events, they cost so much money, and like I said, if I was sharing the mortgage with someone, oh my God, like that's so much feasible to spend $1,000. But when
mhm.
you're alone and you have the finance by yourself, that's very, very hard. We've talked about like the wedding, like sometimes like you get invited to a wedding when you're single and you don't get a plus one
Yes.
because they're thinking about, oh, my cost of the extra
Right.
plate. It's too
Yes.
much. Don't come. But then you're
Yes.
not thinking how that's then putting your friend in a more strenuous financial situation because I have to pay for a hotel by myself now. If it's a road trip, for example, to your wedding, now the gas is all on me. Like everything's all
Yes.
on me now. And your wedding is costing me so much. So now
Yeah.
rather than me be excited, I'm actually stressing about how I have to put myself in debt for this situation.
That is the wild part is like people are putting in themselves in debt for their friends' wedding things. It literally happens. Like I've heard personal
Yeah.
stories from people in my life, but because it's not talked about, I don't know. Like it's just there's this lack of awareness that this is happening, I think.
So I think that if you're the person planning all these events, like I know you're very excited, oh my God, you're gonna get married, that's great. But when you're planning these things, whether it be you put some of the costs for your friends' hotels or like, okay, I'm gonna pay for all the dinners. Not everybody has the means to do it, but you have to think about your friends' finances as well, especially your single ones. Nothing will make you feel more excluded than like not being able to afford something, because then you feel double bad. Oh my God, one, I'm broke, I can't afford it. That's so sad. Like I wish I had more money. But two,
Yeah,
now I'm being ostracized as like the bad friend. So I think that if you're planning these things,
exactly.
think about your friends' finances and also what can you offer to help the financial situation portion of all your events. All you can do as like the single friend, or if your friend is being a bridezilla or something, is like communicate, right? Not just being like, oh my God, I can't come, but just say why. You know, hey, like I actually like can't really afford it. Like I want to come, but it's just not within my budget. Like I love you so much. I'll see you at the wedding. Because sometimes like these things become unspoken. I feel like that's when you get like this like weird tension between both parties too.
Yeah.
And now, if you communicate as a single friend and your friend's still not getting it, then that's like, I feel like that's not on you anymore, you know?
Yeah, I've had a friendship end because of that. Like, and I communicated. It was interesting. But I think it was the person was just stuck in the narrative of like, if you were a good friend, you would show up to all these things. And since you're not showing up,
Exactly.
you're a bad friend. So I don't want to be your friend. But I was also going to say one genius example I saw on TikTok that was not like taking on financial burden or whatever was this girl before all her wedding festivities, she like outlined the dates, how many days PTO it would be, how much the cost of most of the things would be, and was like, I want you to like opt in and opt out, and I want you to have the choice. I think the thing that makes it hard is a lot of people feel like they don't have this choice. And I think
Yeah.
if you're that person who's getting married, giving your friends that option is like such a beautiful thing to do. Like give them autonomy to be able to say what they can and cannot take PTO for and what they can and cannot afford without it
Yeah.
being like a reflection of your guys' friendship. Because I think people get in this thing where it's like, this is my most important event of my life. So it has to be equally like important to you. And it's
Important to
like,
you.
girl, it's just not. Like, I love you and I'm so fucking happy you're getting married, but we're here to celebrate your love, not like put me through these ringers of attending a million events.
Yeah, 100%. And then also remembering that it's not just your wedding, baby. I probably have two more this year, and like,
Exactly.
and y'all, if y'all have the same mentality, then I'm gonna be broke. But yeah, I think that on both parties we have to have an understanding, and at the end of the day, it's an invitation. So remember that, like you're inviting me to come. If I can't make it, I can't make it. It doesn't mean I don't love you or care for you. So
Exactly.
yeah. But yeah, all in all, I do think that these female friendships, they're important to women. So as we navigate all these different changes, whether it be weddings, engagements, motherhood, it's important that we try and keep our friendships alive. And how we do that is through a lot of like good communication back and forth, and also a lot of like grace, giving each other grace for everything, right?
Yes. I love that.
But I guess that's all we have for today.
You little
Um,
brats.
Yeah, I
Rats.
love you so much. There's a wasp in
Go.
my house right now, so I'm gonna
I
have
know,
to
you're
burn the
so
apartment
distracted.
down. So we'll be starting a GoFundMe. Okay, well, we love you so
Let
much.
us know how you guys like the new branding. Tell us
Yeah,
we look cute.
yeah,
Follow us on
please do.
Instagram. We're
Yes,
trying to like actually get the bag this year, guys. Make us famous. 2024. Just
yes.
kidding. Okay, that's all. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.